Ever feel like you're just scrolling endlessly trying to take it all in, but you just end up feeling, well, scattered,
Hmm.
like you're missing the real point in all that noise?
Yeah, absolutely. Information overload.
Exactly. That's what we want to cut through today. We're taking a really good look at some personal notes on Dhamma practice. They're 30 years in the making by Ajahn Kalyano.
Right.
Think of this session as like your cheat sheet, getting to the heart of some key ideas about finding happiness and, maybe more importantly, letting go of the stuff that makes us suffer.
And these notes, they're really a journey, aren't they? Decades of actual practical experience, all aimed at helping us, find our own way.
Find our own way to something more fulfilling. And our job here, really, is to pull out the most valuable bits, maybe the surprising insights hidden in there.
Definitely.
And right at the center is this really powerful idea, a shift in perspective. The
Yeah.
happiness we usually chase, the worldly kind, comes and goes with the senses.
Yeah, fleeting.
That's one thing. But then there's this deeper, more steady happiness. The notes call it the happiness of Dhamma.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes up when we start to untangle ourselves from suffering. It's actually quite a hopeful message, isn't it?
It really is. Because the notes keep coming back to this idea that fundamentally our natural state is pure. Suffering isn't, hardwired into us.
It's something we can learn to release.
Exactly. That inherent optimism, it's a real game changer. It shifts the focus, doesn't it? From trying to get something outside to uncovering something already inside.
I'm uncovering, yeah.
And, Ajahn Kalyano points out, this isn't just a Buddhist concept. He even quotes Saint Teresa of Avila.
Oh, yeah.
Do not be distressed, do not be disturbed, for everything that arises ceases. It's a reminder, really, that even the tough stuff, the suffering, it doesn't last forever.
Everything that arises ceases. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dig into that untangling bit more, this detachment. The notes really stress our attitude, right, when things happen.
Yes, hugely important.
It's about investigating, checking things out, without jumping to blame or judge immediately.
Right, without that reactive labeling.
And it's about accepting, kind of, the hand we're dealt, they call it karma, but still doing our absolute best right now.
And then, crucially, being okay with the outcome, whatever it is.
That's the tricky part, isn't it? Being okay with the outcome.
It is. And what's really fascinating is this idea that you can almost, well, maybe not laugh off suffering, but find a sense of freedom within it.
That sounds almost counterintuitive.
It does. But the notes suggest that when we loosen our grip, our tight hold on needing the world to be a certain way.
When we let go of needing those specific happy results.
Exactly. We stumble into something else, this radical sense of freedom from suffering. It might just be fleeting, a glimpse.
Just a glimpse.
But that taste, that little memory of what's possible, it can really shift things long term. It's not just feeling a bit better. It's a fundamental change in how we relate to life's ups and downs.
Okay, and that leads us to this phrase that really, really stood out to me. If it ain't cool and bright, it ain't Dhamma. Now, the notes say this isn't like a hard and fast rule.
More like a guideline, yeah.
A relative statement.
So what does this coolness and brightness tell us? What are we aiming for?
Well, think of it like a compass. Coolness points to the path itself. It's that sense of inner peace, not feeling frantic or agitated.
It's the quality of the path.
And brightness, that's the result.
Yeah.
That's the freedom we're looking for. As we make progress, the notes explain the things that used to hurt us, they lose their power.
We get less tangled up.
Less tangled in confusion, exactly.
Yeah.
We start to see things more clearly, what is what, as the notes say. It's like getting a whole new framework for experience.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me. The notes mention this suffering inherent in distorted perception. Like our own messed up way of seeing things is actually a source of pain, but the cure is described as radical and, get this, pain-free. How does changing how we look at things bring such huge relief? It seems like a lot of our deep down suffering comes from these basic misunderstandings about how reality actually is, our flawed ideas, our, epistemology.
How we think we know things.
Exactly. And by tackling those through Dhamma practice, we're not just putting a plaster on the symptoms.
Not just band-aiding it.
Right. We're getting to the root. And because these misunderstandings are based on illusion, correcting them isn't some painful fight. It's more like gently pulling back a curtain.
Revealing what was there all along.
Revealing the truth, seeing things as they are. And that clarity itself just brings this incredible ease. But it's so important to remember, like the notes say, the words we use.
They're just pointers.
Just signposts, not the experience itself.
Like pointing at the moon, right? Don't mistake the finger for the moon. The author really pushes us to test these ideas ourselves.
Through experience.
Yeah, through our own experience, not just blind belief. Now, the notes are really clear. This joy, this brightness we're talking about, it comes from letting go of suffering.
Not from chasing sense pleasure.
Right, not chasing every little dopamine hit. And this is where friendship and partnership in the practice come in.
Yeah, that's a nice way to frame it. The initial approach is sort of friendly, casual curiosity. Is this for me?
Exploring it.
And if it clicks, if it feels true for you, then it can become more of a serious partnership with the practice itself. And that little phrase, I,
That playful question.
it keeps that open-mindedness going, right? Is that really so? Just questioning, gently.
Then there's this beautiful, almost poetic passage. Dear friend, if you love life and fear death, listen to me now. Try to suspend your doubt.
Very evocative.
It talks about the bones of arahants, enlightened beings turning into crystals, a symbol of finding the deathless state.
By looking inward.
Through contemplation, right there in their own hearts. It feels like a powerful invitation to start that journey ourselves.
It really is. And it highlights that while teachers are valuable, this is ultimately a personal path. We walk it ourselves. But that gesture, the Anjali, hands together,
What does that signify?
it represents both mutual respect and detachment. A beautiful image, connection without clinging. The notes also stress cultivating good qualities, virtue as sustenance.
Like fuel for the journey.
Exactly. And drawing our minds away from the world's distractions, guided by this light of wonder, calm, still and open. Every step is about letting go,
Relinquishment.
which allows that pure, free mind to emerge.
So the notes really value having a good teacher, a guide. But what if you don't have one? What then?
Well, if a teacher isn't easily found, the focus shifts inward, really getting to know yourself, paying close attention to your own habits, your tendencies.
Self-awareness becomes key.
Crucial. And making sure your understanding lines up with your actual experience, not letting the ideas run too far ahead of the practice.
Or lag behind.
All right. And a key point, if you have doubts before you've really tried something,
You got to try to resolve the doubt.
experience is the only way through that kind of doubt.
And as we practice, the notes mention this positive disenchantment that can arise. Even with our own thinking, our perceptions, how do we handle that urge to step back from the mental chatter?
Yeah, it's not about just shutting thoughts off, which is impossible anyway.
Right.
The key is skillful redirection. Gently turning your focus towards things that bring calm, finding wholesome sources of joy, not just coarse sense pleasure.
Moving towards calm.
And as the mind quietens, you gain this new perspective. You start seeing those automatic urges for pleasure as just that, an automatic pilot.
Something you can consciously reset.
Exactly. Reset based on your deeper goals while still understanding its function.
This whole idea of empowering the mind is really interesting. It's not just stillness, but developing firmness.
Stillness and strength.
Which lets us really focus, examine those truths about change, feeling, control, leading to this completely new, wonderful world of Dhamma.
It's a deep insight. And the notes connect this to the structure of monastic life.
How so?
Well, that discipline, not constantly having desires stimulated, makes it easier to see them clearly and let them go. Renunciation becomes stronger.
So the environment supports the inner work.
Precisely. It weakens the grip of those cravings, making insight more accessible.
The notes then use this helpful analogy. At the start, dealing with sense desires feels like facing someone much stronger.
Yeah, overwhelming sometimes.
So it suggests maybe avoiding a direct fight initially. Why that gentler start?
Because when you're beginning, those ingrained habits, those desires, they feel so powerful. Trying to tackle them head on right away.
It can be really discouraging.
Exactly. You feel like you're failing. So avoiding that direct confrontation is more strategic. You gradually weaken their hold instead of going for an immediate, maybe impossible knockout.
That makes sense. Now let's talk about the fun part. The author suggests starting with more refined pleasures, like opera instead of boxing, maybe.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Refining desire as an initial step.
And then this concept of the Pure Land, a kind of mental space we create to nurture positive intentions and subtle, wholesome feelings. What's the purpose of this internal ideal?
The Pure Land acts as a really useful bridge, a stepping stone between everyday life and those deeper states. It's like building a perfect practice lab in your own mind.
Safe space.
A safe space where only positive, refined feelings exist, untouched by those coarser desires. By focusing on this ideal, You cultivate wholesome ambitions safely. And as you go deeper, the line between what's mind-created and what's inherently mental, it blurs.
And the ultimate version of this mental realm is jhana, this deep, protected state.
Yes, jhana, where the mind is, for a time, invulnerable to interference. The notes call it like a holiday for the mind.
A holiday, nice. But it's temporary, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't automatically change how we deal with the everyday world. Why is that balanced view important?
Absolutely. While jhana offers incredible peace, a glimpse of another reality, its effects are limited to that state. It doesn't magically fix our suffering in daily life.
So don't mistake it for the final goal.
Exactly. I see it as a powerful tool. It builds mental strength, clarity, which you can then apply back in the ordinary world.
That leads perfectly into this comparison the notes make. The Western view matter first, mind second. Some Asian views mind first, world second. And Dhamma offering a middle way. Can you unpack that? And what does stop the mind still mean here?
Well, the typical Western view often prioritizes the physical, seeing mind as emerging from it, maybe located just in the head.
Right.
Some Asian eternalist views might prioritize mind, sometimes blurring thought and feeling with external reality, but the Dhamma approach is different. It suggests bringing the mind to stillness
How?
by detaching from both sense input and the constant stream of thoughts and mental states. It's about stepping back into the body, observing both mind and senses with dispassion.
Observing without getting caught.
Exactly, which leads to this clear, spacious, unshakable mind, free from that energy of clinging. The notes even mention the value of monks with such minds in society.
Okay, so then the notes talk about a monk's life as a cycle. Blissful retreats, like heaven, earned through good actions.
Yeah, periods of great peace.
But even those aren't permanent. And that realization can bring anxiety, clinging. How does contemplation stop that clinging, even when things feel so good?
Contemplation acts as the anchor. It keeps the mind grounded. It allows the monk to see, even in bliss, this too is impermanent.
So it prevents attachment to the good states.
Precisely. The notes describe seeking liberation from aversion, maybe in the Pure Land ideal, and from attraction, perhaps, by contemplating unattractive aspects, like in a morgue.
Combining both.
Combining both for complete liberation. Finding refuge in seeing the beautiful and the non-beautiful. It's a stability beyond just reacting positively or negatively. Can even see the impermanence of those heavens.
And this leads to a core realization. There is only suffering arising. When that hits, the mind withdraws, suffering ceases, and that cessation is illumination, bliss. It's not just things ending but not arising in the first place. That sounds huge.
It is fundamental, a complete reorientation. The ordinary mind, always tangled in cause and effect, can't really withdraw like that. But with this deep realization, the mind becomes aware of a base outside the senses.
Emerging from phenomena itself.
Yes. It's not your usual thinking self withdrawing. It's more like observing the whole process of cause and effect through contemplation.
And with this comes disenchantment with the world, knowing everything comes through the senses. But it's not depressing.
Not at all. Because the notes stress the delight in Dhamma that comes with it, the sense of freedom it offers. Not delight in the views themselves, but the release.
And even if you lose touch with that deep insight later.
That initial taste, that release, leaves an indelible mark, a perspective for reflection. The path then becomes like illumination leading to purgation.
Light revealing and dispelling the darkness.
Exactly. It's the polishing of the receptive mind, followed by putting that understanding into action. Body, speech, and mind.
But even with insight, the notes warn, the heart might still grasp. Understanding doesn't automatically equal letting go.
Right. Old habits die hard. Insight becomes like a riddle you have to solve again and again.
Which really underscores that this is an ongoing practice. And patience, the notes say, is absolutely essential.
Patience is the gatekeeper. It prevents those negative tendencies, the kilesas, from sneaking back in. Accepting things as karma helps build patience.
Rather than blaming others.
Blaming hinders patience. And the core teaching doesn't blame anyway. It sees suffering as arising from not seeing clearly, from darkness, like blaming a blind man for stumbling.
That's a powerful shift away from judgment. But the notes also warn about rigid hierarchies in practice.
Yes, the danger of power structures leading to abuse, defining reality according to desire.
And this connects back to brightness and coolness.
Yeah.
Developing mental brightness without coolness is just ego cultivation.
That's the warning. A bright mind without that cool, grounded stability rooted in the body. It can become responsive to power, easily lost in passions, even seemingly good ones. True stability comes from coolness.
The notes also clarify aversion. It's relative. implying a turning away towards something else.
Like choosing strawberry over vanilla ice cream. It's a choice in context.
So a practitioner seeking solitude isn't just running away from aversion.
Not necessarily. It can be a positive choice based on disenchantment, seeing the limits of the world and acting positively on that insight. And crucially, we can't force the mind to let go.
We need to be tempted by the pleasures of renunciation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Generosity, harmlessness, composure. These become the attractive alternatives. We can also look for the flaws in things we crave, sensing the pleasure of release.
We're seeking perfection to see flaws, or deeper meaning to see uncertainty.
All skillful ways of looking, guiding us towards letting go.
This brings us to the practical side, daily life solutions. Avoiding pitfalls, staying on track. These support the philosophy.
We ground it, make it workable.
And we get the golden rules of practice, starting again with patience.
8 rules. Patience, balance, using constructions only to overcome obstructions, watching only oneself, profitability, what's truly beneficial, discipline, keeping it simple and natural, and fair communication.
Patience is first the long view, faith, that intuition highly developed monks have about past lives.
It sets the foundation.
And the notes stress. The mind is not lacking anything. We don't need to add or subtract.
Unnecessary constructing throws us off balance. The exception is neutral skills, like using visualization for contemplation.
And then, surprisingly, nonviolent communication, NVC, comes up.
As a tool, yeah. Focusing on compassion, personal responsibility, improving relationships through clear expression and empathy.
The 4 parts. Observations, feelings, needs, requests. Being really clear, like distinguishing feelings from interpretations.
And making clear requests, not demands. Aiming to meet everyone's needs through honesty and empathy.
Then the notes touch on Thai culture and karma, that tendency towards indirectness.
Yes, avoiding direct confrontation, hinting instead. It stems from that karma philosophy. Take responsibility for your own actions, accept others' actions as their karma.
A balance between doing good and accepting outcomes. Do your best and accept whatever happens.
Which fosters, the notes suggest, an atmosphere of sharing, refinement, unspoken understanding, and a longer-term view of cause and effect.
And this contributes to a kind of underlying sanity, despite social problems.
The notes propose that this clear view from Dhamma provides a foundation for mental well-being, highlighting the roles of village monks, conventional Dhamma, and respected forest monks, transcendent teaching.
Though there's the growing influence of science, too.
Yes, and an attempt to show the validity of art and contemplation alongside it. But practice monks are traditionally held in higher regard than study monks.
Then we have the 3 aspects of mind training using mindfulness. Equanimity, passive watching, concentration, active calming, and effort, intervening.
Finding the right balance is key. Different people, different teachings might emphasize one. A busy person might consciously choose concentration, for instance.
In Ajahn Chah's advice, stay mindful, let things take their natural course.
Concentration protects the mind for insight. And metta, loving kindness, is given as an example, like using kind eyes, both preventing and curing ill will.
The mantra Buddho is presented as a versatile tool, a mental vehicle. The author shares personal stories, awkward at first, then transformative.
Yeah, training a dinosaur, feeling naked and helpless initially, then reciting it while walking, making it bigger in the mind.
Leading to awareness of the mind gathering itself outside the senses.
Its simplest use is just stopping the mind wandering, anchoring it in the present, and reflecting on the Buddhist qualities. The diary excerpts show shifts: familiar, calm, knowing, silence, steady presence.
And when unwholesome states arise, greet them with knowing, I know this.
Not as enemies, but indicators of need. Then various skillful means, outdoing them, balancing them, detachment, noting, contemplating the mind, benevolent teasing, contemplating the object's origin, endurance, using concentration, ignoring, maintaining center, don't get taken in.
Leading to the qualities of the healthy mind from the diary. Firm, pure, clear, free, fit for work, positive energy, neutral patience, open heart, calm, content, developing concentration on wholesome states.
It's a comprehensive picture. Then wisdom is linked beautifully to breath, calming, feeling, composure, dignity, self-respect, more reliable than sense pleasure, and thought, the uplifting smile, thinking goodwill.
A settled mind becomes more sensitive, revealing the still source. Receiving Dhamma this way is desireless, from contentment with space.
Defilements are dissolved, not held, when the mind changes direction. It's about becoming aware of mind movements, learning restraint and renunciation, establishing constant open awareness of itself.
Awareness reveals wisdom as the compassionate host to transitory experience and the source of spiritual qualities.
Wisdom sees the danger, the instability of the senses compared to its own security. Ultimately, it can found itself on the unconditioned, become one with space.
Taking refuge there means conditions can cease naturally, knowing consciousness is secure. Belief about survival after death is a choice, but either way you find a transcendent quality of mind.
Yeah.
Then that playful but deep contemplation of death using bones.
Let us not forget, this body will one day be just bones. Seeing the body as just nature, not me or mine. The potential for awakening in the bones, the absurdity of bones moving bones, the skull not always smiling.
A death exhibition. But it's not bones finding out about bones.
It's truth speaking to the heart. A prayer that bones carry away veils. Realizing we haven't been other than those bones either. Letting go of mind leads to the deathless.
Moving towards refuge in Dhamma by noting suffering arise and cease via the Four Noble Truths. Aiming for non-greed by recognizing suffering.
Flowing with experience, noting feelings fade to neutral, which can be stabilized through desirelessness, equanimity, naturally withdrawing from senses by abandoning desire, eventually seeing even neutral feeling is impermanent, strengthening awareness itself. Body, breath, feeling are good objects.
Working on still receptivity, calming reactivity, maintaining dispassion for conditions, balancing this with love for the unconditioned, deathless Buddha, recognizing the escape conception are the source of perception, but objects of none.
Conventionally culminating in release through non-attachment, relying on a vision of the ultimate. The Buddha realizing the unconditioned through sense withdrawal, returning mind to its source. Knowing time and timelessness, mind's uncertainty, but timelessness of mindfulness as an anchor. Faith in pure knowing's imperturbability.
Distinguishing active thinking about contemplation from insight itself. Active thought reminds the mind.
Though active contemplation in a calm mind can yield insight, but watching the mind needs the space of wisdom. Meditation separates mind and objects, shows knowing, bound by desire, released by contemplating the object.
A still mind is essential for insight. Things arise and cease in the same place. So build a foundation of sila and samadhi for natural, passive insight, not just active contemplation.
And patience, again, paramount, prevents kilesas returning.
Thinking contemplation. Buddha emphasized the three characteristics for renunciants, but other knowledge is needed too. It's impersonal, relating to inner things as if outer. Samadhi brings images into mind for observation.
Specific topics. Impermanence, anicca, seen through body awareness in a calm mind. Contemplating death heightens awareness. Not self annotation allows letting go of perceived self. Thought can't do this. Conception implies grasping. Use Dhamma to observe experience. Mindfulness practice sees subjects as objects.
The Four Noble Truths. Contemplating suffering in silence leads the mind away from suffering to silence. Involves active investigation and passive reflection. Narrow focus can lead to broad awareness. Act clearly, maintain perspective for balance.
Awareness and passivity as a guide to cessation. First, noble truth, understanding suffering, seeing impermanence of me and mine, encourages letting go of a stable self-image. Reflection in a calm mind preempts suffering by seeing danger, not grasping. Acknowledge arising suffering as impersonal, gradually allaying craving, our sense of self. Letting go brightens the mind, there is versus I am, leads beyond duality. In the seeing, there is only the seen. Unified mind relinquishes objects. Cessation reveals emptiness, sends pure awareness as brightness, space, silence without naming. Only suffering arises, only suffering ceases.
Contemplating suffering of body and mind. Contrasts Western duality, blaming body, with Dhamma view, body as object in awareness. Reduces mental suffering as everything comes within mindfulness, leaving physical pain to be endured based on mental priorities. Notes Western tendency to locate mind and head, misconnection to feeling throughout body. Worry about suppressing desire. Desire itself suppresses perception of suffering that leads to freedom compassion.
Systematic contemplation. Step 1, detach from physical suffering through dispassion. Mixing mental-physical prevents mental freedom. Step 2, see mental suffering is different, reliant on body. Detachment from body prevents suffering getting stuck. Cessation of the thought of suffering leads to cessation of suffering itself.
Thought of craving is hot. Chanda, wholesome desire, is cool. Use same channel. Third noble truth. Cessation nirodha, non-arising of suffering, temporary or permanent. Fourth noble truth, eightfold path, Vinaya, monastic code, is Dhamma in action. Understand Vinaya convention to understand Dhamma. Act via Vinaya through faith when in doubt. Path is natural expression of mind at one with teaching, driven by wisdom faith. Walk naturally when free from desire.
Stages within each truth. Hearing, understanding, accepting, realizing, seeing, and acting accordingly.
A cautionary tale. All conditions are eventually suffering. Complete release is their ending. Temporary withdrawal gives faith in letting go at death, needs intuition or exposure to truth. Subsequent faith lightens life in suffering, but not stuck.
Properties of calm feeling. Knows virtue, is good, confident, has energy faith, still neutral, detached, knowing through wisdom.
Feelings and moods. Need positive energy, neutral feeling, negative perception, seeing impermanence. These cling together as feeling and mood self. Wisdom takes self apart. Goodness can add Dhamma contemplation to address current attachments.
Boring thoughts, feelings. Don't confuse them. Need honesty about desires, question their origin. Good suffering is desire not followed, like a good stretch. Desire and anger root in sense desire, intensify as desire to be not be.
Faith and path fruit needed its start to concentrate on goodness for happiness. Spiritual practice from the heart, not just technique. Progress from different practices converging, like driving. Practice all elements with faith before experiencing convergence. Lay aside goal, focus on cultivation.
Constructing subject-object, restraint influences this based on intention discrimination. Survival mode, mind slave to desire. Contrast. Put body-mind at service of truth through faith, knowing nothing ultimately lost. Caution, don't confuse ultimate conventional truths. Idealism.
Pain versus suffering. Bodily pain, somewhat inevitable, suffering not. Physical suffering, perception of separateness, mental suffering, attachment. Have faith in Dhamma's fruits. Non-separation of body world, insubstantiality of clinging mind. Be still as conditions move, don't hold mind still. Sever attachment, desirelessness for independent movement of mind objects. Affected only to extent of attachment.
Replace self with awareness. Step into body with right intention. Act as if it mattered. In it, but not of it.
Fruits of transcendence. Mind can bring causeless phenomena that may survive death. Skillful karma, paramitas. Personal clue. Knowingness unaffected by severe pain. Have faith in knowing, even if it seems like nothing. Mind changed by attachment to its own objects. Mind born into things, not vice versa.
Caution. Faith in emptiness as idea to avoid responsibility. Delusion. Sasara empty as whole but can get stuck in parts. Reborn mundane refuge. Conscience, mind turned inward. Conscience becomes positive via conscious application to discipline out of faith, naturally transforming passions.
Faith in dispassion.
Yeah.
Foundation of all other transcendent qualities. Equanimity, patience, compassion, contentment, gratitude. Cultivating others without dispassion leaves them vulnerable to passions.
Choosing and karma. Choosing is apparent output, but what we take in defines us, karma. Intention unifies mind system, energy information. Integrate intention's actions. Find peace. Take conscious responsibility.
Mental feelings. How minds hold things. Direct experience makes grasping unnecessary painful. Take responsibility for grasping based on wholesomeness. Take mind to sensation to clarify inward impingement. Initial physical feelings may remain. Relationship changes. Strong investigation prevents impingement.
Looking from above side. Field of awareness encompassing art science. Thinking, intention, and feeling feed into mind.
Samatha vipassano, detachment versus passivity. True distinction emerges with understanding this. Easy to mistake passivity for detachment early on. Only wisdom detachment maintain mind independence. Calm restrains but doesn't inform. Sila informs worldly actions, natural to renunciant path.
Investigating feeling. See all feelings as transitory, stressful, uncontrollable. Do with calm, neutral, absorbed mind without desire. See feeling as a result of actions, body, speech, mind, used to hone actions, not control us.
Generating happiness skillfully. Don't turn inward to directly fix feelings, leads to obsession, ignoring causes. Direct control impossible leads to oversensitivity, selfishness. Shift from external to internal craving, both transitory, uncontrollable.
Inner protection, it real virtue. Needed in realm of inner experience.
Following wholesome versus going against unwholesome. Mind pushing us, unwholesome. Kalesis. See our part in present karma. Don't get drawn in by memory without kalesis present.
Remembering undeniable meaning. Meaningful experiences remembered, others best forgotten. Can break limited views.
Karma and perception. Reacting with dislike reinforces negative karma. Same for attraction to positive images. Take things in good direction. Minimize attention to negative karma. Don't directly fight kilesas. Cultivate goodness.
Cessation of attraction and wholesome mind. When unattractiveness arises naturally with attraction, cessation, heart release, samadhi, seeing Dhamma. Visions, lights, voices teaching Buddha's message, extreme rapture possible. Mental karma of renunciation, holding mind to object, overcomes other mental karma. Caution, doing this without wisdom, potential harm. With understanding, opens eyes afresh. Contrast. Mara adds to perception towards darkness. Practice virtue for discrimination to predominate.
Linking contemplation and samadhi. Contemplation leads to samadhi with insight into three characteristics. Focused mind on internal object can lead to its disappearance by removing causal conditions outside it. Bare awareness leads to cessation if hindrance is absent. If not, investigate internal causes.
Selflessness of dispassion. Overcoming suffering requires seeing truth. Selflessness of dispassion for world, passion for Dhamma. Contemplation prevents suffering through changed perception.
The key perception, not self. Playful fantasy, detachable ears, surgery illustrate seeing body as not self, reducing distress.
Returning to silence. We come from return to silence. Lost thought and memory, loss, often compensated with hope, missing truth. Unclear divides between desire, fantasy, and thoughts moods. Only practice rooted in present yields results.
Implicit doubt and thought. Description's only pointers. What's described changes, thinking one side at a time. Ping pong.
Direct seeing of the mind. Upon awakening, see mind directly. Distinguish creation on creation. Detachment from senses enables perceiving psychic world. Deeper insight into conditions. Instability of mind states paradoxically allows knowing to detach, find stability.
The outsider and detachment. Caution against dissociation, masquerading as detachment. Caution against water buffalo equanimity, passivity, instead of fulfilling responsibility. Motto: accept what happens after doing your best. Monastic discipline teaches wise administration, focus on intention. Monks don't judge this way. Bound by civil law, ideally don't wish it on others.
The asavas, unwholesome things arising without conscious intention, different from kilesa's active driving forces, overcome via strong concentration, revealing them as empty habits.
Imagination in practice mental illness. Samadhi reveals mind-body interdependence. State of no imagination when mind withdraws from stronger than senses, not dream state. Realm of pure delusion without sensory input. Strong mindfulness wisdom can form disciplined imagination. Kasina example. Contrast. Mental illness, weak mindfulness, unchecked imagination, blurred reality. Projection, mixing imagination senses. Kilesis, ease unwholesome states with sense objects thought. Mara uncools unwholesome states without.
Nimitus, spontaneous images in calm, bright mind, distinct from imagination, lucid dreams, waking visions, occur when mind previously withdrew to samadhi. Caution, don't misinterpret reality here. Nurse the story.
Spirits and devas. Thai belief acknowledged, caution against unclear comprehension, be centered, no own mind state, never hold visions. Devas, formless light beings, visit from Brahma Viharas, enjoy them.
Psychic power. Caution term risks material concepts for mind. Danger of defilements excited by power idea. Real power exhibitus. Emptiness. Influence through truth. Dhamma, greatest psychic power. Devas bodhisattvas offer spiritual support in letting go. Reconcile benevolence, relinquishment from material being's view. Enjoy unworldly to move from worldly. Origin of light less important than energizing clarifying effect.
The systematic path. Sila, Samadhi, Panya, Ajahn Kalyano. Lack of unwholesomeness, mental hindrances, suffering, respectively. Jhana level states of samadhi, complete sense withdrawal, thought may arise.
Samadhi and wisdom awareness versus contemplation. Awareness, passive experience. Contemplation, active engagement with mind objects. Skilled contemplation needs just calm mind to clear it. Pure awareness points to resultant clarity.
Concluding notes, practice diary. Desire peace, peaceful movement towards it. Goal beyond conception, indescribable, reach via relinquishment. Need desire to relinquish. Don't lower goal. Goal, mind space free of suffering defilement without needing separation. Mind needs base free of mental physical feeling to be free of change form.
Rebirth and cessation. Three-life theory and moment-by-moment cessation need not conflict. Cessation, non-arising, not just ending, prevents misconception of rising above karma only to fall back.
Differences to Western psychology. Buddhism cultivates indirectly. Anything we handle handles us. Psychology addresses personal, not existential plight. Psych language expresses values, determines perception, lacks recognition of sila renunciation. Maslow. Renunciate good enough, advances spiritually. Psych analyzes life like dream, not aiming for awakened state. Psych desire for integration can fixate on past. Buddhism accepts past, moves on, balances karma overall.
Buddha's view of world, impermanent, statement of potential suffering, not negative value judgment. Samana withdraws, seeing danger of involvement, not aversion. Impermanence means problems never lastingly solved by worldly involvement. Analogy. Dangerous trap, poison drink, pleasure poisoned by craving. Renunciation only logical act, driven by compassion to step out, lead others out.
Immortality and sense restraint. Mind aware of base outside senses makes overcoming sense attachment clear, not just for peace, but immortality. Need to burn the bridge back to conditioned for nibbana. Holy life relies on mind's essential purity. Relinquishment leads to nibbana. Raise knowing capacity via sense restraint meditation.
Unsought fruits of developed mind, intentional application, J, kinesiology, body strengthened by truth, suggest broader consequences.
Sources of distortion in religious convention. Attachment to rites rituals, investing power in versus seeing as mind expression. Superstition. Psychic truths become superstition. Assuming consistent side trustworthiness of ethereal entities. Emphasize discrimination. Testing perceptions.
Emergent picture of centered mind, bright shadow. Goal, clearer, unified picture of mind states body relationship via overcoming suffering. See experience all in mind. Mind states dependent on sensory world, transitory, unmasterable. Understand overall picture, including pure mind's emptiness, avoid identifying with it. Difficulty defining still field approach from different angles. Find practical language for clarifying present experience.
Perceiving the pure empty mind. Conceiving it leads to suffering. Buddha refused discussing consciousness itself. Avoid seeing as mind object. Luminosity revealed by cessation of objects. Samadhi. Or attachment. Wisdom. Luminosity same in both. Freedom relies on non-attachment, not repeated withdrawal.
Oneness and impermanence of consciousness. Caution thinking oneness is release. Misses danger of consciousness's impermanence. Prompts separation from conditions for base in space.
Resolving subjective-objective views. Suggests take impersonal objective view first. Observe others, apply reactions to self. Subjective experience need not match objective views.
The knower in the world. Suffering arises when relationship knower, pure mind, known world, misunderstood. Knower in, but not of world, affecting via intention, not changing underlying laws. Knower lacks autonomous objects content, interdependence. Understanding allows proper use of life for spiritual development.
The alchemy of liberation. Find direct experience of mind purity, clear vision of body. Samatha Vipassana combined for liberation. Arahant's path to deathless, jeweled remains symbol.
Impingement and designation contact. Terms from Mahanidana Sutta for passive sensory receptivity, active outgoing mind. Interdependent.
Free will determinism. Dhamma views conditionality as neither, but same system from different standpoints. Observer story deterministic, I story free will. Self-referential awareness, practitioner's mindfulness. Two possibilities. Run with karma or override with free will, neither ideal. Ideal, a reflective individual acting with full awareness of consequences, harmony with nature, using automatic pilot when aligned right. Reserve consciousness for virtue, concentration, wisdom, don't overload.
Social skill and dependent origination. Nothing arises purely within without. Ignorance, see self as victim creator, helplessness, overestimation. Buddha's offering. Not deny responsibility, nor see as entire fault. Recognize abandon internal element of suffering. Highest social skill.
Further implications. Can be sensitive without being affected. Suffering from attachment, greed aversion, or dependence. Life for training. Knowing to overcome delusion attachment. Priority over sensory mind state development. Free students of life, not victims master.
Action, passivity, detachment. Question created actor victim, inner observer, perfecting processes, submitting to fate. Misconception. Only perfect passivity finds unity freedom. Only detachment necessary, not withdrawal. Allows influence interaction without entanglement.
We are spiritual beings, trying to be human. Foundational perspective shift.
Wise, spirit, compassionate soul. Ideal inner-outer dialogue between wisdom, compassion, ultimately unifying. Struggles equals dialogue between caricatures seeking detached benevolence.
Relationship and generosity. Higher Dhamma, mutual respect, affection, minimal for spiritual partnership. Seeing impersonally can paradoxically strengthen affection. Treat mind objects impersonally, pointing at needs. Act on desires, not act out emotionally. Direct recognition via empathy. Heart channel open closed. Empathy never threat when acknowledge mutual visibility. Calm mind recognizes shared states. Seeks similarity.
Significance of shared ineffable experience. Profound importance in relationships. Sense of lasting connection beyond time.
Views and mutual respect. Person's Dhamma, their truth. Comparing reveals understanding development, experience understanding expression. Joy of discovery sharing fosters mutual respect. Personal truths, fulcrum for mind transformation.
Conflict resolution. Acknowledging fault releases past issues. Tease out issues without wrong speech. Correct responses. Use metta for ill will. Unresolved salail will prevent mind settling. Drop aversion for others' faults may facilitate their acknowledgement.
Indomitable spirits, examples. Determination, Tom's recovery. Patient endurance, Glennis dying, spirit brighter. Sympathetic joy, Korsakov's patient. Generosity, Irish man monk. Compassion, Ron's silent support.
The shift in being. Direct insight into pure heart. Appreciate morality. Criticism can be wrong. Desire darkens heart.
Mhm.
Fundamental shift. Human trying to be spiritual. Spiritual being trying to be human.
Wisdom as leader of mind. Ultimately, wisdom perception should lead Sangha, collective individual consciousness, not intention, karma generator, especially when mind lost in feeling.
Mark of supermundane path. Poverty, celibacy, robes bowl, marks those established via faith and sight.
Monastic perceptions Vinaya. For faith but limited insight. Minimal contact with opposite sex, conducive to altering perception. Reasoning behind initial male order Vinaya, restrained those without panya.
Practical experience of seeing unattractive. Imagine seeing unattractive side of body without doubt. Blissful samadhi. Aversion to attraction.
Monastic ethics detached benevolence. Heart-loving robe for calming discipline. Samanta's ideal detached benevolence reconciles peace with self, peace with world, sila, and seeing danger of world, Dhamma.
Therapeutic practical aspects. Generosity, virtue, therapy for all. Faith, mindfulness, mainstays. Dhamma, ultimate medicine. Karma, natural law expressed via social convention, Vinaya. Caution. Don't confuse Dhamma Vinaya or apply Dhamma to Vinaya issues. Honor system of monastic convention. Teachings on wise, compassionate administration, intention, self-protection, and Sangha, banishment.
Upaya, skillful means therapies. Caution confusing with Dhamma. Potential prisons if misused. Upaya, Dhamma, hands off. Contemplate, endure, let go. End of suffering, letting go, feeling free, not just better. Key decision. Benefit outweigh proliferation. Clarity of aim. Simple preventative best. Avoid losing purity of contemplation, patience, endurance. Kilesas exploit, control, attempts pride. Skills should be routine, calm, minimal proliferation.
Attitude of Dhamma warrior. Adopt for empowerment and challenges. Embody it versus worldly security. Empowered in opposite ways. Warrior versus sensual seeker. Suggestions. Caution without timidity. Intention to erase personal history. Present focus. Limited records. Not give power via indiscriminate info sharing. Skillful reflection on death as advisor presence. Plan day as last. Assume responsibility. Deliberate actions, feelings over routines. Disrupt routines. Be accessible, inaccessible. Protect self. Take fruit of practice as affirmation. Light is right. Link back to world newly. New world of Dhamma.
Spiritual seeker as addict. Monastic perspective broadly applicable. Analogy to describe guide practice, relevant with modern temptations. Face addiction to all sense pleasures. Weaning off like Grug alcohol withdrawal. Playful self-admonishment. Watch out. Dangers of the armchair.
Whoa.
Comfort attachment. Forgetting hardship value, impermanence, crucible of true Dhamma. Recall Ovada Patimukha, patient endurance, Buddha's example. Question which renunciate more genuine? Charming Druid. Seriously suggests learning from AA principles, success religious basis. Gregory Bateson article, AA Theology Cybernetics.
Self-control and benevolence. Discipline need not be unpleasant, benevolent, realistic. Lack Western models for balanced restraint, composure, refinement. Greater respect in Asian societies linked to spirituality. Seek to enjoy renunciation, meditation, primary vehicle versus driving with principles. Kindness, letting go ill will, boundless release. Dispassionate, detached actions most skillful. Kindness, natural quality of detachment. Do best, accept outcomes, safeguard without dispassion.
Scope and AA principles. Bateson. Philosophical discussion of realistic human scope. Bateson. Theology coincides with cybernetics epistemology. No unilateral control, mental characteristics immanent in whole system. Alcoholic hitting bottom, shift in viewing personality and world, breaks myth of self-power inner conflict. Alcoholics philosophers, guided by abstract principles misnamed feelings. Self, false reification of wider field, rediscover self as part of it.
Will of the Buddha and relinquishment. Buddha's will aims at relinquishing sense desire, open wider awareness, natural virtuous behavior. Complementary versus symmetrical relations, avoid blind faith reactivity.
Other useful AA concepts. Anonymity, safeguard pride humiliation, religious name abandon identity, protects versus guru effect. Prayer, skillful means for stuck in self to appeal to something greater.
Death and greater power connects AA principle, believe in greater power, to experience of death, forcing letting go. Realizing mortality can coincide with realizing we are greater than what dies, contemplate body's impermanence. Addiction to body causes rebirth, death.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, we've really unpacked this central idea, haven't we? That true lasting happiness isn't about chasing the next thrill.
Right, not the external stuff.
But it's about this gradual process, this freeing ourselves from what causes suffering. We've seen how attitude is just so key.
Absolutely. Learning to look with more acceptance, less judgment.
And finding that balance, between engaging with the world and seeking that deeper transcendent understanding. Detachment playing that crucial role.
And it's ongoing, isn't it? The notes keep reminding us this is a path, a continuous process, learning, refining, practicing.
Exactly. And these insights, from Ajahn Kalyano's decades of experience, they're offered as practical tools for you listening.
Not just abstract ideas, real ways to navigate your own life, understand your difficulties, and cultivate a more peaceful, liberated way of being.
So maybe just take a moment today. Think about one small area in your life. Could you practice just a little more detachment there?
Could be letting go of needing a specific outcome.
Or just observing a tricky emotion with a bit more space, less judging yourself for feeling it. If this sparks something, we really do encourage you to explore the full notes.
There's so much depth there.
We hope this deep dive has given you, maybe, a valuable shortcut to some pretty profound ideas, leaving you feeling a bit more informed, perhaps a little less overwhelmed in your own search for, well, happiness.